We begin this story with Elias, a former Special Forces operative who stood out for his training and leadership during the war in Afghanistan. However, during what was supposed to be a secret operation, his entire unit was wiped off the face of the earth, and he was the only survivor. After this, he became unable to control his temper, and the trauma left him unfit to continue serving in the military. So, they sent him home. One morning, his friend Hector calls him to talk, tired of seeing him suffer in silence and isolate himself from the world. Since Hector is starting a new branch of his business, he might have something for Elias. The job is simple. A very powerful family from Dubai will be in France for a month and needs a trained bodyguard to protect their daughter. The pay is excellent, and it's not anything outside of what he's used to. However, the idea of having another life in his hands reminds him of what happened to his unit, and Elias turns down the offer. He does not want to bear the guilt if something happens to the girl. As soon as he returns home, he finds his landlord waiting for him. He is already 3 months behind on his rent, and if he doesn't pay by the end of the day, he will find his belongings on the street. Now he has a motivation to return to work. He accepts Hector's offer, who gives him a satellite phone and sends him immediately to France so he can start working. Upon arriving at the luxurious mansion the family rented for their vacation, he meets Jamal, the head of security for the family and the person in charge of the entire bodyguard team. Immediately, they assign tasks. Elias is responsible for protecting Mina, the youngest sister in the family, and her daughter Noor. After assignments are given, Jamal reminds Elias that he must wear a black suit at all times. Showing up in a sweatshirt did not make a good impression. They take him to his room where a suit and the necessary communication equipment await him so he can do his job properly. The first few days are easy, watching Mina while she swims in the pool and so on. Then Noor makes things a bit difficult by trying to escape on her bicycle while Elias is receiving a package at the front door. The little girl thinks it's fun to outsmart the bodyguard, but everything changes when she comes face to face with 2 men on a motorcycle staring directly at her. The little girl freezes in fear, and Elias is ready to pull out his weapon. Luckily, the guys just drive off, but Elias notices a diamond-shaped tattoo as they leave. After Jamal scolds Elias for being so distracted and not realizing Noor's intentions, he warns him he will not tolerate another mistake. Because of this, Elias must step up his game and be more vigilant. That same night, little Noor was out of bed when Elias found her. She begged him not to turn her in. She only wanted to take a picture of the stars with her telescope and then go to sleep. Noor asked Elias if the guys on the motorcycle were bad, and he told her it seemed so, which is why leaving the house alone is not a good idea. Even if she doesn't like having a bodyguard, she must understand that the world is not safe, especially for someone like her. The little one doesn't understand, so Elias explains that her family is very powerful and wealthy, which in this world earns you enemies. Bad people who would do anything to harm her mother or her grandfather, the boss. That's why she must be careful. The next morning, Amina is fed up with being locked up and asks Jamal to let her go out shopping and take her daughter to the mall. Jamal is stubborn and says no, but after Noor looks at him with abandoned puppy eyes, he has no choice but to give in, but only if Elias goes with them. As soon as they leave the house, Noor is excited to see what other children with normal families do. They spend the day playing with their friends without a care in the world. At the mall, they buy everything they want. After all, money is not an issue. However, just as they are leaving the stores, a somewhat suspicious van parks behind them. Elias tells them to hurry and starts the car before the van can block their way. This puts him on alert, but it's not really an attack. Later on, when the traffic light turns red, Elias notices the same motorcycle from the previous day next to him. When he sees the diamond tattoo on the men's hand, he draws his gun and tells the girls to duck immediately. He activates the control device Jamal gave him to signal an emergency and steps on the gas, triggering a chase through the city streets. Luckily, they reach the mansion safely after causing the motorcycle to get stuck in a pileup of several cars. Back at the house, Elias goes to see little Noor to ask her how she feels and about something her mother said during the chase. Now that the little one trusts him, she tells him the truth. They are not in France on vacation. They are hiding from her father, the heir to the entire family fortune. He wants to marry off his 10-year-old daughter to the son of his business partner, who is much older. When Amina heard that her daughter would be traded like cattle for her husband's business deals, she fled with Noor. Now they fear for their lives, having witnessed the immense power her father wields. Ilyas leaves the room to find Jamal and learn everything about what's going on so he can be effective, but he finds him on the phone. Jamal signals him to wait a moment. Unfortunately, a second later, a bullet pierces the window and lodges in Jamal's skull. Chaos takes over the mansion, and from the window, Ilyas can see several armed teams arriving at the house, heavily armed. Clearly at a disadvantage, Ilyas cannot face them head-on. Instead, he uses stealth to eliminate several men one by one. Shortly after, he finds Mina hidden in a cabinet. Unfortunately, she is alone because Noor ran off to save her dog while Amina waits in the car. Ilyas goes back for Noor, whom he rescues from one of the bad guys. During the escape, they encounter several cars that, after some maneuvers, they manage to leave behind. Ilyas takes the girls to a dangerous neighborhood in the city, led by Megan, who turns out to be his sister, and she provides them shelter. Later, Amina gives Megan her earrings as a sign of gratitude for her help. These are valued at a bit over €1,000,000, not bad for a day's work. The next morning, Megan wakes up her brother to show him the news, where they accuse him of the aggravated kidnapping of two very wealthy women, and his name appears on the most wanted list. They also blame him for Jamal's death, leaving him no choice but to return to Hector. At first, he subdues Hector and questions him to see if his friend betrayed him in some way, but Hector says he has nothing to do with what's happening and yells that he didn't hire him to kill innocents and kidnap rich girls. Ilyas tells him he can prove his innocence. They just have to go back to the villa and get the security footage. That's where the evidence of his innocence lies. However, to his surprise, when they arrive at the villa, everything is restored. No corpses, no broken glass. The place is immaculate. And when they check the security cameras, they show Ilyas killing the other bodyguards and kidnapping the girls, just as the news reports claimed. Ilyas begs Hector to believe him, and Hector takes control of the computers. With some effort, he manages to extract a single frame of the footage that doesn't match up. It shows Noor's dog attacking one of the men who entered the villa. While this does not completely absolve Ilyas, it's proof that the recording was altered. It's a start. At this point, Hector confesses that Ilyas was never his first choice for the job. He only hired him because Durante recommended him highly. Convinced Durante has something to do with all this, they go to his house and subdue him for questioning. Initially, Durante denies any involvement, but after Ilyas presses a hot iron against his skin, he finally confesses to having altered the recording. He also recommended Ilyas because they needed a mediocre person who wouldn't cause problems. Hearing this, Ilyas executes Durante without hesitation. The next morning, they return to the girls, and Amina confesses that she has reliable people in England, but she doesn't know how to get there. Hector says they can send them in a shipping container, but it will be a long and difficult journey. Amina agrees, and they set off toward the docks. They stop to eat something, and while doing so, Ilyas notices a man at the bar watching them. This man has a blood mark on his arm, and when Ilyas follows him to a trailer outside, he finds that he is not alone, and a fight breaks out. After killing them, he examines the man's arm and finds a bite mark from Noor's dog, meaning these are the same men who attacked them. Eventually, they reach the container, but it's full of other immigrants. Noor refuses to go without them, so Ilyas also gets in, and they set off for England, hoping that Amina's family will help them. A few hours into the journey, it stops abruptly. Fear takes over everyone, and a few seconds later, the doors open, and a burst of gunfire enters. The first to die is Amina. The armed men take Noor away, and Ilyas, having been hit several times, cannot do anything to save the girl. As quickly as they arrived, the men leave, leaving a pile of corpses in the container. In an unexpected twist, Ilyas's vest saves his life, but his body is in immense pain, and he's locked inside the container, which quickly fills with smoke. It turns out the bad guys set fire to the cabin. Fortunately, Ilyas manages to get out before the truck turns into a ball of fire. In a small flashback, we see that the bad guys captured Hector and tortured him to learn Ilyas's location and that of the women. After they got all the information they wanted, Hector was executed by the leader of the bad guys, who bear the diamond tattoo. Back to Ilyas, he is now on his way to Dubai after asking for help from an old comrade. a pilot who drops him right into the city, armed with everything he needs. Elias lands on the family's building where Noor is being held and starts going down floor by floor, eliminating the guards, until he reaches Noor's room and reunites with her. Unfortunately for him, when Noor leaves the room, the alarm sounds and several men appear, forcing him to fight while protecting the little girl, making things even more difficult. Like a true killing machine, Elias takes out dozens of guards and reaches the boss's private elevator. He stops in a hallway filled with pictures of Al Cid El Mario, who plans to use Noor as a bargaining chip. For a moment, Elias considers entering his room and killing him, but Noor begs him to just escape, and Elias takes her to the rooftop, where they once again use a parachute to jump off the building. A few days later, Elias takes Noor to a villa in Morocco, where she can live with her aunt and have a normal life. Over time, Noor gets used to her new life and is grateful to be able to do all those things she couldn't do before. Elias promises that when she comes of age, he will take her to her family in England so that she can recover everything that rightfully belongs to her.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.